Welcome back to Strings and Pucks. This is Jeremy Laura, the stuttering guitarist. It's time for an NHL update. Late last night, it was announced that Isaac Howard was traded from Tampa Bay. Now, if you look at the way that Pro Hockey Rumors had initially titled the post, it sounds like Tampa Bay was in control on this deal, but if you've been following this scenario all along, you know that Howard's camp had put them in a position where they had to move the player. So this deal may have far-reaching implications into the future. The CBA extension has already been signed. It looks like it's been approved by both sides. So anything that's not in there regarding the NCAA would have to be brought as a separate issue going forward. So in a sense, the owners and GM's hands are already tied on this issue for up to the next 4 years once the CBA expires. But don't be surprised to see this spark even more discussions than have already been had about players using the NCAA as a way to become an unrestricted free agent, as a way to get away from their drafting team. This is a very polarized issue. I don't see a lot of people looking at both sides of this. I either have someone who's really happy that the players are doing this, saying, yes, you absolutely need to do this. You can then stick it to the team that drafted you and just go wherever you want to go. And then there's the other side of people being angry at the players because they're not grateful to the team that drafted them, essentially, is the way it's framed on the other side. So I'm going to kind of give as down the middle a look on this as I can. First, Howard put Tampa Bay in an impossible place because the entire league knew what was happening. So this issue should have been hammered out 2 years ago, to be frank. The NHL hasn't done anything about it. Every drafted player who's not signed by their club can go to the NCAA and tell their team, I'm not going to sign with you. And in this case, it seems fairly clear that Howard is going to sign with Edmonton. There's even a note in the write-up that he's expected to be in the lineup in October for Edmonton. First, Howard is he had to put his seal of approval on this. He had to say, yes, I'll sign with that team. And it's at least speculated that he gave a list of teams to Tampa that he would sign with. And last season, college scouting in the NHL, it was pretty heavy of them going to universities and watching players whose rights belong to other clubs. So we know that tampering is out of control in the NHL, and teams are doing this. And again, for those of you who think this is the greatest thing ever, it's not going to be great when it's your player, right? When a player for your team decides they want to go somewhere else. Now the college is left holding the bag because they've already been promoting the squad with him on it for next year. So this causes damage on a number of levels. But I think if you look at it down the middle, you say, okay, in its purest form, if a player's been in school for 3 years and the team didn't try to sign them and the player's heading toward their senior year and finally says, you know what, I've made a name for myself. Some players need those years of development. I've had people argue with me about that. Howard is a better player with a higher value today than he was at 18. Tampa tried to sign him. He said no. At the end of last year, he gave them an ultimatum. He said, either sign me and burn a year of my entry-level deal or lose my rights, and I'll go sign with someone else. And was willing to go back to school and forfeit a year of playing either the AHL or the NHL, wherever he signed, to get that done. So he essentially said that, and the entire league knew that he sent that. So Tampa knew they were dealing with a somewhat limited amount of leverage. Still, they made a deal with Edmonton. I think this is one where they're not happy. They're not happy that Howard, who looks to be NHL ready, and clearly it seems like Edmonton thinks he's NHL ready, they lost him. They had no say that they were going to lose him. They just got to pick the price tag. What was the swap, right? I'd heard Detroit was interested. I've heard several teams, including the Flyers, were interested. And Philly, I have a friend, hey Chris, who's a season ticket holder for Michigan State hockey, and he texted me about all the scouts he was seeing. And Detroit and Philly were the two clubs he could see a decent amount of scouts from. And Chris, if you want to text me to the clubs you've seen, I'll throw that in there. I remember kind of being eyes wide open, because if you're going to college, you're either looking at upcoming free agents who weren't drafted, or you're looking at people who are not technically, their rights are held by other clubs. And depending on how you go about it, this could trigger a tampering investigation. If Tampa Bay wants to push the issue, I think they won't at this point. They're just going to take their newly acquired player, move on. But if this situation keeps popping up, clubs are getting faster and faster to say, okay, I want you to investigate tampering on this, because they did get so out of control. So again, I think the way to look at it down the middle is it's got to be about intent, right? If a player is just using the collegiate route as leverage, that's problematic. That's going to put a stain on the route. It's going to put a strain on universities who save that spot for a committed player, and then could end up holding the bag, in the fall when the player decides to just sign somewhere else. So it's up to the players to not abuse this route, and not just, if things aren't going your way, just go get a commitment from a university, get a scholarship from a university, take that spot from somebody else who really actually wants to play there. You're not talking about a small amount of money. Look at what tuition is. A full ride scholarship and a place on a Division I team is a valuable spot. And if it's just being used as a leveraging tool, that's a serious problem. I do have a problem with that. On the other side, GMs, understand the commitment of the people you draft. If a player does not sound 100% on board that they want to sign with your team, don't draft them. It stinks. You might miss out on a big name, but you're going to miss out on it anyway. And now it'll be embarrassing. So there's two sides of due diligence here. I do think there's an onus on the players not to damage the NCAA route, because I think what this is going to do is put into discussion about rules pertaining to this. And just like you have the Sean Avery rule for goaltending, you could have the Isaac Howard rule for the NCAA route. So this coming to fruition may have put that in motion. I think they need to negotiate with the NCAA to allow players to sign some sort of modified entry-level deal. You limit it to 1 per year, and you limit to 5 on the books. That way they have their rights. When they decide to leave school, it flips to a traditional entry-level deal. You pay them a bonus each year, and that acts as their NIL. I actually ran this by a college coach, and he loved the idea. He loved the idea of teams paying the name, image, likeness dollars for the players in Division I school. We'll see how it goes, but the league has to find a way to address it. And with the CBA just having been signed, it's not like they can do that right away. As far as universities go, this is kind of a sad day. Ever since NIL has come into the picture, players in football and basketball have been ditching colleges left and right, transferring in the middle of the season, costing colleges the ability to go to a bowl game. It's really been nothing but a headache for the universities. Did they make billions on these players? Absolutely. But they've basically turned the NCAA into a development league, more than it already was before. But let me know what you think. Isaac Howard moving might not seem like a big deal. At this point, it's not blowing everything up yet. But I think it'll lead to big changes in how the NHL and the NCAA interact. And of course, let me know your opinions on this. I think it's foolish to go hard one side or the other, to see it all from the team's point of view or all from the player's point of view, because you're ignoring the damage this could do to other players. Quite frankly, if the GMs get together and decide, yeah, we're going to change the draft age, boom, that hurts a lot of people right there. And if the NHL decides that, like the NBA or the NFL, a player has to leave the NCAA to be drafted, which is always a possibility. I mean, both of those leagues do that now, and wait longer to draft a player. You're hurting everything. So instead of going hard in the paint for one side or the other, step back and see that this situation isn't all the way good for either side right now, and it needs to be addressed, and I think it will be. All right, any other updates, I'll let you know, and I'll talk to you soon. If you want to support the channel for now, the easiest way is to head over to iTunes, look up my name, Jeremy Laura. You'll see I've got some singles and some albums for sale there. If you don't use Apple Music or iTunes, you can head to stutteringguitarist.com. I'll have the link in the description. Digital downloads available there, 99 cents. It helps the channel an incredible amount. It helps me be able to continue to work on this while we grow it.